everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. Yeah, we do it Gangnam style. We do it all kinds of style, baby. On the line, our special guest, Brown's Great. Without this man, there is no Dog Pound. Hanford Dixon.
Hey, big dog, y'all got it going on over there. I was sitting there watching y'all. Y'all got a good show, man. I've listened to your show a lot, man. I got to compliment you guys. You got a really good show going there.
It's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go, off and running another edition live. We are in the studio, back in the saddle, the Sports Fix, on the air across the airwaves, and welcoming you guys. It has been, you've been having some fun? We've all been having some fun in Cleveland. The party still going on in Cleveland. I expect it to go on for quite some time. The Indians have sure as heck done their best to keep the party going down there as they renovate Public Square. They unleashed that one on the public here. It looks absolutely beautiful. I was telling some people this morning, I said, man, that looks nothing like the public square that I grew up with, the dark, dingy public square that I grew up with, beautiful and vibrant. And hey, of course it's because timed up with the convention and all of that, but hopefully it'll stay that way and Cleveland will reap the benefits for some time to come. I know that you couldn't see the green on the ground, you couldn't see the beauty, you couldn't see any of that stuff about a week ago. 1.3, maybe a little more, million people converged onto downtown Cleveland for the parade of all parades to celebrate the Cavaliers NBA World Championship. What a sight. What a scene. What a thing. Just, I don't think anybody will forget wherever they were seeing that, whether it was live, whether it was in the crowd, whether it was on the TV, what they saw and what we all experienced on that day. That was cathartic right there. That was, and here's the thing, is it was a celebration. I mean, it was, I don't know of any mass gathering, especially sports related. Look at some of these towns back. I remember when I was a kid, was it the Pistons when they won? The town was so happy, they're flipping cars and setting things on fire. It happens a lot, more than you would think, and boy, none of that. The opposite here in Cleveland. I mean, how can you get 1.3 million large downtown all together at the same time and have one small shooting situation with one person injured? That is miraculous. A little arrests here and there, some disorderly conduct, but hell of a job by Cleveland. Give yourself a hand of applause right there, because that was some stuff, because everybody was happy. It was an unbelievable celebration, and capped off by the Cavaliers coming to the stage and showing off that NBA championship trophy. It's been, I have no problem saying June of 2016 should go in the books as probably the greatest month, or it's right up there in Cleveland sports history when you look at what happened with the Cavs, of course, winning the championship. And really, since then, Cleveland hasn't lost, period. I want to say Cleveland sports teams, I think it's now 27 consecutive games that no Cleveland sports team has lost since the Cavs Game 6 of the NBA Finals there. The run between the Cavaliers, the Indians, the Lake Erie Monsters, and the Cleveland Gladiators have even won a couple in that streak. They've all won. Nobody with a Cleveland on the front of the jersey has lost since that time. The Indians wrapped up the greatest month in record-wise, win-wise, in franchise history with 22 wins. They are red hot. We're going to talk some Tribe today. Just a whole lot going on. Cleveland should stand strong and proud for sure with everything that's going on, and they sure did. Again, that parade, what a sight. What a sight, guys. I mean, it was people for as far as the eye could see, and that one there was for everybody that's here, the ones that aren't here. There was another 1.3 million that passed on before they got a chance to see it that were packed in down there as well. So it was 2.6 million because Lord knows a lot of people didn't make it that far, but they sure were celebrating up in the skies for sure. And it was just an awesome sight. And I thought, again, the coolest thing about it, there were some great pictures. We shared many of them across our social media that you guys shared with us. And I think one of my favorites, many of you have commented on it or let me know that you saw it, was in this throng of people where you would think it's a hot day. People are getting blasted and sunburned and nobody can move. I mean, it's a million plus ants in this giant ant farm. And one of the greatest scenes was a fan in a wheelchair who had been down there, and he was basically crowd surfed. He had a group of guys who picked up the entire wheelchair and were holding it up there above the crowd as the parade was coming by so that this cat could see and clap for the Cavaliers and actually see them as they were going by. And I thought, hot damn, that is one of the coolest pictures of this whole thing. I mean, there was some awesome sights, some crazy sights. Those people on the garage that were standing with their feet holding them up like Spider-Man between the pillars up the parking garage on the one part of the parade. Amazing. There were people up on light fixtures and everything, but I thought that the greatest picture Cleveland could have taken was that one with this crowd holding this guy in his wheelchair up, holding the whole wheelchair up and up above and flat so that he can watch and take pictures and all of that stuff. And I thought, what a class act and what a great picture to kind of encapsulate that thing. And that feeling's going to roll on for quite some time. Although the business of the NBA and the business of being NBA champions picks up quick. Free agency going. The Cavs hit right away. We're going to get into it in a minute. Timofey Mozgov, nice to know you, brother. Heading to the Lakers. Mozgov, 4 years. The word is $64 million. Man, whew. The money is blowing up in the NBA as we knew was coming here, talking about the salary caps and the money going up. We're going to get into it in a minute. We got a lot to do. Tribe, red hot, hottest they've ever been in their history. So hot, they're selling out. Progressive Field is probably going to have multiple here over the next week. Got this big homestand coming up. Tribe running up on 20 games over 500. We're going to talk Indians. We're going to get to your calls. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland in the house. It is most definitely, we're turning the calendar to July, celebrating June, and it is a 4th of July holiday edition of the Sports Fix. Let's rock and roll, baby. Welcome in, my friends, to the Sports Fix. I am your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers with you here, doing the thing across the Sports Fix radio network. That is so many different places. Maybe you're listening to us live on TuneIn.com, TuneIn's radio and mobile apps worldwide. Maybe you're enjoying the show on Spreaker, on our website, the home base, thesportsfix.net. If you haven't already, make sure you bookmark it. It's a great place. If any of the sites that you listen to the show happen to be down, you can always go right to thesportsfix.net. The show feeds live. You don't even have to push a button. Just go to the page. You're hearing the show live as we speak. Plus, it's got all of our social media widgets, our sponsor banners there. Make sure you check them out as well. Some great things that might be able to help you out as they help keep us on the air and free for you. Bookmark it today, thesportsfix.net as well. Many of you listening perhaps on 96.7 WFSN in Union City, Pennsylvania. Shout out to you guys. Love coming to you across the airwaves of WFSN. And can't forget the thousands of you who listen around the world, live and on digital delay, 24/7 on sites such as iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, CarPlay, SoundCloud, and all of the other sites that you download, feed, subscribe, podcast, do the thing, technical mumbo jumbo, and get your fix. Thank you guys so much. As we say each and every time, without you, there is no us, baby. Speaking of, I've got calls in the queue. I'm going to hit it live here in a moment as well. Phones are going to be open. Pick up the phone and give us a call. 216-539 7535 is the number to call. You want to talk Cavs, you want to talk parade, you want to talk about those smoking hot, smoke is coming from the TP. I don't care if it's PC or not. Them engines are red hot. Whatever you want to talk about Cleveland, let's hear it. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Phones are open as well. Dan Wismar is going to join us 20 minutes from now. We'll get in as many calls as we can. In the meantime, we've got some news coming up momentarily. That's about 20 minutes from now. 216-539-7535. Facebook, Twitter, email, blow it up. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. You can email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Again, Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Twitter at The Sports Fix CLE. You can email us 24/7, thesportsfix@AOL.com. And again, the phone line's not just open live, but if you're listening to the show, it could be a Tuesday evening, a Saturday morning, it could be Thursday at 3:15 a.m. Pick up the phone, record your take anytime, and we'll play it live on the very next opportunity here on the Sports Fix. 216-539-7535, the number to call. Going to get to those phones here in just a moment. I've got live and calls in the queue already, but before I do, a couple of things to catch up. As I was saying right before the split there, Mozgov to the L.A. Lakers, and he's going to get a reported 4-year, $64 million contract, and free agency off and running. Richard Jefferson, of course, we talked about it last time we were on the air. He was going to call it a career, go out on top with the NBA championship, but looking at $1.3 million kind of changes your mind sometimes when they're all chanting one more year. Richard Jefferson on the stage called back to the pool, the lure of the Cavaliers. He says he's going to come back for one more season. There's some real decisions, though, still on the table for the Cavs. I'm not going to get into this too much because I know Dan and I are going to talk about some of this, but Delly has 4 or 5 teams, Matthew Dellavedova, that are going to be in the hunt for him, and already word from the Cavs, as much as they'd like to retain his services, it could get dicey and pricey pretty soon. I'm hearing upwards of $8, perhaps $10 million a year in that area for Delly, and you still do have another year here with Mo Williams, so the Cavs are going to have a decision there. There's a J.R. Smith situation as well because he opted out of the player option, so now he's going to be free agent dollars, and that's going to be up there pretty high as well. So a lot of things in play for the Cavs, and we're going to talk more about that, as I said, with Dan. The NBA draft just went by. We're going to get into some of that, but boy, the money just, again, going through the roof. Speaking of NBA free agency, I've got to chuckle at some of the moves we've seen as you look around, and quickly you can see the landscape, perhaps where it's going to change around the NBA. I've been telling some people, if you look at, and this is just my thoughts quickly without going off too much, if you look at the East, to me, it looks like, and I'm just saying, not just as a Cavaliers person here, but looking at it objectively, the Cavs historically destroyed the East, and I believe the gap between first and second place in the East has become a chasm. And it looks to me like a lot of these teams in the East are going to shuffle some pieces. We saw the trade. The Bulls moved Derrick Rose to the Knicks, who also have signed, or it looks like they're about to sign a big free agency contract with Noah to come over from the Bulls as well. The Knicks trying to remake things. But I'm looking at a lot of the Eastern Conference moves. Jeff Teague moved out of Atlanta. I'll tell you what, though. It looks like they're trying to make space to get the hometown boy, Dwight Howard, to come home and play for the Hawks, which might be a settling place. But really, unless you get a true franchise player, like if a Kevin Durant picked one of these Eastern Conference teams to come over to, or something like that, I just don't see any team in the East that is one big move away, other than, like I say, a true franchise game level changing type player, away from closing the gap. And it looks to me like a lot of these teams are going to start to, I don't want to say totally retool, but they're working on competing, but developing. The plan is 2-3 years from now, because I think a lot of teams in the East are looking at the Cavs as having a stranglehold on the Eastern Conference for another at least year or two before somebody can either develop their own or get the right combination and then bring a third, perhaps a big three somewhere. I hate that term, but just kind of generalizing. So that's just my thoughts as I look at some of these teams continuing to flip things around and looking at the free agency things that are going on. That's just, in my opinion, it's especially, by the way, looking at the Knicks and what they're trying to put together. Talking about money, you talked to Mozgov, 4 years, 64. Noah and the Knicks, that deal, 4 years, $72 million they're talking about. And the money is just going to continue to blow up through the roof. Hey, man, with Mozgov, you can't... You can't teach size, baby. There's always a place. And I like Mozgov. I like his game, and I think that he can definitely bring something. I'm curious to see what the Lakers are trying to put together out there. A lot of guys re-signing with their team. Some of the free agents that were most coveted. Drummond looking to stay with the Pistons. Batum's going to stay with the Hornets. Who else as well? Whiteside, the big one, looks to stay with the Miami Heat. So some of the big ones there. Kevin Durant, obviously a key. He's got meetings with the Warriors and I think 3 or 4 other teams, and then going to come back to the Thunder. My gut feeling, and I got no sources on this. This is just my gut feeling. Is that you got to think Oklahoma City, if nothing else, has a shot at perhaps a 2-year, maybe with a player option. Opportunity to keep Durant. I just think Durant, knowing that Westbrook's got another year left on his contract as well, I could see him convincing himself that they came that close. They had the 3-1 lead before Golden State made the comeback on them there to get to the NBA Finals. I could see giving yourself another shot because that team was close, and so I've got to think that perhaps if he does go back to Oklahoma City, maybe it's not the long-term commitment. Maybe it's one of those short contracts. Like I said, maybe 3 years with a player option as the third year where the first 2, or maybe even just 1 year, because I think Westbrook is a free agent after this coming season. And then that would give Oklahoma City one more run at things, and then perhaps an opportunity if they wanted to go in a different direction to do things. It depends. But Kevin Durant's a big piece. I mean, obviously, got to keep him in the West because that's a guy that could swing a team that I'm talking about and close that gap real quick between another team and the Cavaliers. We're going to talk some more NBA. Let's talk some Indians right before I go to the phones, baby. As we speak, of course, this show will be recorded and replayed many different places throughout the week. Tribe in the midst of their longest winning streak in franchise history, and this team is the hottest team in baseball. No team in baseball, period, has had a 13-game or longer winning streak since the Braves a couple of years ago. They got to 14. In the American League, it was back in 2002. Oakland, the A's, had a winning streak of some significance. The Indians just red hot. How about this? We always talk about them teams of the 90s and the powerhouse Indians. None of those squads ever had a 13-game winning streak. I think the 95 Indians, I want to say their longest winning streak was 9 games, I believe. And I think they had a 10-game winning streak in 2001. Now, of course, those 95 Indians would win 5 or 6, lose 1, win 5 or 6, lose 1, win 4 or 5, lose 1, as they clubbed the entire world to a 144 record. But that's it. The 95 team capped out at 9. 99 capped out at an 8-game winning streak. I mean, what the Indians are doing is absolutely staggering. These starters are sizzling during the streak so far to this point. 10-0 with a 1.86 ERA. It's absolutely sickening. 91 strikeouts in 97 innings. I could throw stat after stat after stat at you. I hope, and I can tell by the attendance, it's picking up. I mean, sold out 4th of July. Probably a couple Yankees games are going to be sold out here. I think the fans are catching on. I think that the Indians did catch lightning in a bottle because they not only got hot, but they got hot at the right time, and it bridged the gap from the Cavs celebration. It's like a drug addict that gets that big fix, the biggest one that they've ever gotten, and they need something to keep it going. And the Indians finally had put themselves in position with their play to be that team. And I think Cleveland is now finally noticing that this is going to be a fantastic homestand for the Tribe, and they've got a real chance to continue to put some distance, as now 18 games over 500 and counting, 6 games up in the games back in the division. If the Indians played 500 ball the rest of the season, they'd still win 92 games, and that would probably be enough to put them in the playoffs as the division winner, not even the wild card. It's amazing. We're going to talk more with Dan Wismar. I'm going to get to the phones here and talk to you guys momentarily. A couple of calls in the queue. I'm going to hit it right now. Caller, you are first up. Kick us off here on the Sports Fix.
Cleveland! Man, I'm so happy for you guys. My name is Wayne. I'm calling you.
I don't know what happened there. Let's try that again.
Cleveland! Man, I'm so happy for you guys. My name is Wayne. I'm calling you live from Dallas, Texas. I know what it was like around here when the Mavs won the championship. And I've seen all the people in the streets, man, in Cleveland, man. I'm so happy for you guys. You deserve it. It's been over 50 years. So I know y'all going to party, man. I know you're going to party for probably all summer. So congratulations to you, man. I'm happy for you guys, and you deserve it, and much respect to LeBron James, man. Y'all keep doing your thing, baby. I'm going to listen to you.
All right, all the way from Dallas, Texas. Nice to hear from you, my man. And we have gotten calls like that for the last 2 weeks. It's amazing. I think right after the Cavs won, we heard from people in 10 different states congratulating the city of Cleveland and the Cavaliers for what they did. Unbelievable. Thanks for the call. Thanks for listening. Going right back to the queue.
Big Daddy, how are you? This is Big Bob from Bristol, Connecticut. And, man, how do you like them streaking young Cleveland Indians, baby?
Yeah.
Just a great young Indian team effort. Super job by our starters and all these young players on this young Indian team. But this is what it's all about, keeping these young players, this nucleus together, having faith in a lot of these young players and sticking by them, sticking with them through thick and thin. And, man, they're doing it. They're taking off. I'm loving it. I've got my little nephew down from New Hampshire. We're going to watch the games. We're going to have a lot of fun. I think we're on to something here. You guys, be safe, be happy. We'll talk to you later.
Talk to you, Big Bob. Always great to hear from my man listening up in Bristol, Connecticut. 216-539-7535, the number to call. Keep them coming in, 216-539-7535. I've got time for one more quick one before we get to Dan Wismar. Dan's coming up just about 10 minutes from now. Right now, caller, you're next up live on the Sports Fix.
Good morning, J-Rocc.
Hey, good morning. This is my man, Bruce. What's up, baby?
Hey, not much. Just wanted to elaborate a little bit on your winning streak here.
Hell yeah. It's not my winning streak. It's our winning streak. These Indians are rocking and rolling, Brucey. This is something that many people do. I was saying this before your call. I hope people appreciate. Indians aren't just playing well. The Indians aren't just winning some games. This is some historic stuff we're seeing right here.
Yeah, we go through the record today, by the way.
I know, absolutely. A shot to set the all-time record. I mean, that's 100 years of history, and we've talked about some of those great Indians teams that have won the World Series, teams that have almost won the World Series, teams that should have won the World Series, and these Indians are doing things that those Indians teams didn't do in the past. That's something special.
Yeah, the stat that really caught my eye was the New York baseball Giants. 100 years ago, they went on a streak where they won 18 games, and their starting pitchers were under 3 runs a game.
That's nuts that you have to go back that far. I mean, it's what the Indian starters are doing. It's mind-boggling, man. I mean, Carrasco, that may have been one of the best starts of the season, any pitcher for any team, or especially the Indians here. I mean, just unbelievable command. We got 14 Ks. I mean, just unreal. And if the playoffs started today, Carlos Carrasco would be your second, maybe your third starter that you're throwing at a team.
Exactly, and like Tito always says,
that's scary,
you got to play
Bruce.
one game.
That's scary,
Yeah.
Bruce.
Yes, it is. And like Tito says, though, you have to play one game at a time, and you have to play all 27 outs, and that's exactly what they've been doing.
And it's not just the starters, though. I mean, especially you got to give credit when you give blame, too, for as much as we get on the bullpen, and the Indians had their struggles there in the early part of the season, the relievers are doing just as much as the starters. I mean, obviously they haven't had as much exposure because the starters have just been mowing people down, but the pen's under a 1.3, I think a 1.29 ERA in the innings that they have pitched, which is unreal that in 13 games the bullpen only has 21 innings logged. I mean, that'll show you these starters are coming in and packing a lunch, baby.
I believe Manchef, or whatever his name is, hasn't pitched in so long that he's almost like he feels like he's been on a disabled list. So I thought that was a pretty good line, Bruce. Last night.
It's absolutely amazing, my man.
Okay, here's the thing that bothers me, or not really bothers me or whatever, but the TV rating since we've gone on this run is up 10.85%, which is 170,000 homes watched the game last night. Okay, now,
right.
They set
one of their record ratings the other day along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, on Tuesday, I believe we had 10.2.
In comparison, though, for people that hear these numbers about ratings and don't totally understand, more people in the last week or two are now the number of people watching Tribe games. It's bigger than what the Cavs were doing during the playoffs. I mean, it's quite significant, and it's up 30% from this time last year.
Exactly. And that, that leads me to my point that, where were these people at when, the season started,
I'm telling you, it's the timing of things. It's what we've talked about, whether it was Mike Brandenburry, whether it was Dan Wismar, all the guys, we talked about that period, especially last year and this year after the Cavs playoffs, where you had a real window, and this year especially. And this is the perfect storm for the Indians. They've got the right team at the right time, and they got hot at the right time, and now it's boom, it's right there. And it's kind of like, it reminds me, as much as it sucks, because guys like you and me and so many of you guys out there, the hardcores that were there through the down years when there's, we're talking about, 8,000, 9,000 at a game, and it's pathetic looking and all of that. But remember the term they used in the late 80s, heading into the 90s, a sleeping giant. It was the same thing. They had been lulled into the belief that perhaps Cleveland didn't care about baseball anymore. There was a lot of that same talk in those, when you get to the culmination of all those decades of darkness into the early and late 80s, but it came back. And it's the same thing here. I'm with you, but, I as I told you off the air, I don't care where they were as long as they keep filling up the ballpark the rest of the season, because it's a lot more fun for us to watch and for them to play baseball with 30,000 people down there.
And that's my point. I want these people to be here if we go on a medium losing streak,
Well, you'll get some of them to jump. We know that. But I do think that, first off, I think that the Indians are for real. I mean, I don't think we're just talking about a small slice of good fortune. I mean, clearly this pitching is going nowhere for quite some time. And when you can pitch like this, you can keep it up. But as I said, they can play 500 ball the rest of the way and win 92, 93 games.
Exactly.
Disgusting.
And,
Bruce, my man, anything else before we go? I got to wrap it up.
Yeah, I got one more little humor here for you before we split up here. the month of June, like you said, everybody won. The Monsters, the Cavs, the Indians. The only team that didn't lose along with that is the Browns.
Hey, Bruce, I'm not even going to let you do that. The Browns haven't lost a game in 6 months either. We're good
That's
now.
Right.
We're
That's
good,
right.
baby.
They haven't lost.
Bruce, my man,
All
I
right.
appreciate the call, brother.
Not a problem, J-Rocc. Talk to you later.
You got it. Great phone calls, guys. It is the first of the month, and it is time to hit the break. Dan Wismar, my man, going to join me from Everybody Hates Cleveland on the other side of this, the flip side after the news. We will be right back. We're talking Cavs. We're talking Indians. We're going to break down this winning streak even more, and who knows? We may even talk a little Browns. I hear Hugh Jackson. If nothing else, he has got the winds of change sweeping through. I got some ears down there in Berea. They say there's a lot of people working a little bit harder than they used to. I hope that's the case. We're going to talk about all of that. Cleveland, baby, having some fun here. Holiday weekend edition of the Sports Fix. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland joins us next after the news here on The Fix.
We having a wonderful day, and I won't fight with my wives. It's the first of the month, and I'm smoking, joking, rolling, sipping on 40 ounces.
The Sports Fix, the show that asks the question,
What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou? What you talking about? What you talking about, Lou?
We'll be right back.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Hello, Cleveland. This is WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley, and you are listening to the Sports Fix. Yeah.
No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. The excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials.
And now,
Fight fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens.
let's get it all.
And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger.
They sure are good.
Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious.
Hey there, eat up, y'all. You's as good church-going folk. Y'all deserve a little treat.
What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd. Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. In 13 games in the NBA playoffs, he averaged 1.2 points per game. So, of course, the Lakers have reached the 4-year, $64 million agreement with center Timothy Mozgov. The story was first reported by The Vertical. The NBA free agent negotiating period began at midnight. Center Hassan Whiteside posted on the Players Tribune that he will re-sign with the Miami Heat. Forward Nicholas Batum has agreed to a 5-year, $120 million deal to re-sign with the Charlotte Hornets. This, according to ESPN and The Vertical. ESPN's Mark Stein reporting the center Andre Drummond is on the verge of agreeing to a 5-year, $130 million max deal to remain in Detroit. And NBA sources tell Stein that Oklahoma City is in a strong position to re-sign Kevin Durant, who will meet with 5 more teams this weekend. Third round at Wimbledon, now live on ESPN. 4th seed Stan Wawrinka leads Juan Martín del Potro 6-3, 3-6, 5-4. It's the first time in 58 years that Wales has reached the quarterfinals of a major soccer tournament. Wales meets Belgium today. Quarterfinals Euro 2016, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2.
If you're headed out to the ballpark this summer, why not save on Shell fuel on the way? Join the Fuel Rewards program and save big on Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. There are thousands of ways to rack up rewards on Shell fuel. Sign up free at fuelrewards.com/ESPN.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Throwing you the best sports commentary in town. The Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix. Going to work. J-Rocc back with you. Dan Wismar with me on the hotline. Going to grab him in just a minute. You guys keep the conversation rolling. Facebook, Twitter, email, facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Twitter @The Sports Fix, CLE. You can email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com, or leave your take on the hotline. Can't take your call live, but you can call 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Hit us up. Leave your take on anything you hear on today's show or just anything you want to talk about. We'll play it on the next live show. And tell you what, I was talking about, this happiness in Cleveland lasting and everybody feeling good. I was going to say that perhaps we're the happiest people on earth, but we're not. It's not possible. And Dan's going to know exactly what I'm talking about as I bring him up, because there isn't a person in the world happier today and this day every year than our good friend Bobby Bonilla, because it is once again Bobby Bonilla payday from the New York Mets as he collected his latest check in the amount of $1,193,248.20, which he will receive every July 1st until 2035. With that, let's welcome my man Dan Wismar back to the show. He and I and none of us can possibly be doing as well as Bobby Bonilla. But Dan, how you doing today?
Hey, Jerry, I'm doing pretty well. In fact, I was thinking about this before I got on with you. I'm having such a good day that I forgot about Bobby Bonilla Day. But I got to believe that even as good as I'm doing today, with the Tribe on a 13-game winning streak and still smiling from 12 days ago with the Cavs winning the championship and looking at a 4-day weekend ahead of me, and maybe if the rain holds off, getting out on the golf course this afternoon, all that good stuff. I think Timothy Mozgov might be having a better day than me, and maybe even a better day than Bobby Bonilla. Who knows?
I'm with you there.
He's the only guy I could think of that was having a better day than me.
Bruce sent me a comment during the break and said, I think Mozgov just bought Russia with that money, man. I'll tell you.
Right.
Unbelievable, man. But, as we're talking about it, because you and I have brought up the Bobby Bonilla deal before, and there's more deals like that out there. Like I got to looking, and sure enough, Brett Saberhagen, he gets $250,000 a deal till 2029 from the same New York Mets, from the same agent who made the same deal, although not as lucrative. The best part, by the way, about Bonilla's money is they only owed him like $5 million, and instead, by deferring it, he makes like $30 million. It's one of the best investment planning deals any player could ever make. Bernard Gilkey. I don't even know if anybody would recognize that name. He hasn't played baseball since 2000. He's been collecting $2.5 million a year since that time. He gets his last payment this year. He collected an extra $10 million because of a deal like that. And I was doing some research. Did you know that the reason we joke about the Bobby Bonilla money, you know that the real reason that deal was made was because at the time Bernie Madoff was part of the team running things there, and of course he was a big scam artist, as everybody knows, and was into all the deferred money stuff anyway. So that was why this agent was able to pull off what he did.
That's amazing. Maybe Bernie might have been a little short of cash on hand at the time.
Like I want to say that it was the owners of the Mets who were working with Madoff to handle their money. So somehow they worked with him thinking they were going to get this big Bernie Madoff return on the invest. They basically invested the money that they were going to pay Bobby Bonilla over 20, 30 years, however long the deal was.
It wasn't, as they say, liquid at the time.
Right. And they figured their investment rate was supposed to be 10% under what Madoff got. So they were going to have enough money to pay Bobby Bonilla and then some. And they were actually going to profit $50 million on the deal. So that's why they were so quick to make that deal with Bobby Bonilla, because they were going to be able to pay him all that money and make a $50 million profit. But when Bernie Madoff's scam got unveiled to the world, they lost all of that money. So now the current owners of the New York Mets are still paying that money today.
Which is pocket change, frankly.
Right, absolutely.
When you think about it, $1 million a year, that really is walking around money in Major League Baseball today.
Heck of a pension, though, brother. Heck of a pension.
Oh yeah. Bobby Bonilla, when he walks to his mailbox every July 1st, is it's not walking around money for him anymore.
I'll tell you what, a lot of Clevelanders would have paid $1 million for what they got to go through in the last month. I wanted to ask you, I said it at the beginning because I saw some other people say it, and I've got to agree. Would you put June 2016 up there as the greatest month in Cleveland sports history?
Well, I think you have to. I really do. 22-6, right, for the Tribes?
For the Indians,
is that
yeah.
it? Best
month ever. Ever.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be the best month in Cleveland sports history, no doubt. And so much to talk about with the Tribes, Jerry, that don't really know where to start. But I saw some statistics on the streak. But one of the statistics that is the most striking to me, forget the streak, forget 22-6, and to see just right where we are right now, where the Indians are positioned right this minute with our 5 starters, who, by the way, have a 3.03 ERA combined this season, for the whole season, not just the streak. Combined, Jerry, they make $13.6 million.
I know. Best deal in the world.
That is incredible. When you think that that's what Ubaldo Jimenez, for example, makes this year by himself. That's less than half of what Justin Verlander makes this year. This is the best 5 starters in the American League, probably in all baseball, making $13 million. And even better, the top 4, let's leave out Tomlin, who's only committed to the team through 2018.
Next year. Yeah. Everyone else is 2018 or 2020.
Everyone else is through 2020 or better.
Yep.
In terms of being under team control or signed. And it really is just a remarkable thing. No matter what else the front office does this year, next year, last year, to screw things up, that they have done right and have come up smelling like roses.
I mean,
this quintet of starting pitchers being the most affordable and the most locked up in terms of team control for the next 3, 4, 5 seasons. It's just remarkable. I can't even believe it.
2020. I absolutely. I knew you were gonna go there with one of the things to look at with what just is amazing with where this team is. The fact that they've done so. I thought looking back at the fact that no team has had a run like that. Not even those 90s teams. They had a lot of smaller winning streaks with just like one loss in between. But this run is truly historic when you look at what these guys are out here doing and how they're doing it, how they're laying it down.
Yeah, and the best thing about it is the balance of it. It's not a CC and a Pastor Carmona getting hot at the same time. It's all 5 guys doing it. Every single game, you figure you're going to get a strong pitching performance. No pitcher in bullpen or starter in the streak has given up more than 3 runs. So everybody's contributing. You're not getting one guy winning it. It's the old cliche about it's a different guy every night, but truly with, Rajay Davis will step up, and Kipnis has been on a little bit of a roll, and some guys are just, every night it does seem to be somebody different. The bullpen has been lights out. I was ready to throw Brian Shaw in a scrap heap a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely.
And, I guess that's maybe why Tito's the manager and I'm not. He's been one of the many reasons. He's been money the last several times out. And Tito says you don't win pennants and World Series by scrapping guys when they have a couple of rough outings. So to his credit, he's getting the most out of these guys. There's no doubt. I see the national guys, Jerry, scratching their heads, going, "Wait a minute, the Indians just swept this or that team, and this is the lineup they're putting out there: Michael Martinez and Jose Ramirez and some other guys named Joe that we've never heard of, and they're on a 10-game win streak. They can't figure it out. And obviously, it comes down first and foremost to pitching, but you're scoring 7 runs a game too.
Absolutely. I mean, the offense isn't just putting enough on the board. I mean, they're absolutely laying it down. But I wanted to, when you talked about numbers and you said something you wanted to bring up, I had one because this was one we talked about a couple weeks ago before the Tribe just got absolutely red hot when we were looking at the Cubs and that record-setting start to the season that they were having, run differential. And they're still head and shoulders number one in the league. But the Indians are now second best in the league in that category. Plus, was it 94, I believe, as we speak today in that category, which is just amazing. And I was looking at the runs allowed for the Indians. They have allowed, at this point thus far, 287 runs on the season, and it is number 3 in all of baseball, lowest runs allowed as a team pitching staff. I mean, but that run differential, they were
it's number 1 in the American League.
Well, number 1 in the AL, yeah. The only teams they're behind is, of course, Washington and Chicago. Absolutely.
Yeah, and they have pitchers over there only have to pitch to 7 batters.
And it's far and away number 1 in the American League. In the American League, I want to say the next closest team, maybe Kansas City, and they're a good 50 runs ahead of the Indians.
Yeah, and this Atlanta series over the weekend, or this week, I should say, just showed up once again how National League Baseball sucks. I'm sorry that some of the purists that want to talk about how it's great that pitchers hit and the designated hitter rule is crap and all that. You can have it, Jerry. You can have National League Baseball. To me, when Danny Salazar has to go up there and swing the bat 4 times a game, I'm sorry, it doesn't make for a better game. And I just, every time we play in a National League park, it just drives the point home more to me how National League Baseball is a lesser game because pitchers hit. Just my opinion.
Yeah, and I totally feel you on that one, man. And we see that when those games come out. By the way, something I wanted to drop on you. I saw this one came up on my stats and info. For those of you guys looking at the recent history, it is on the Indian side. The last 4 teams to go on a winning streak of this length have all won the playoffs or better. So that's something there to put on the side of the Indians. But, man, I mean, even – it doesn't matter. Each one of these games, you talk about the Atlanta series, you go back before that, and now as they're working their way through, following the Cavs' path, sweep. That, by the way, we mentioned it briefly, I think, last time, just as it was upcoming. But how freaky of a coincidence is that it's exactly the same run through the Eastern Conference playoffs that the Cavs went through.
Detroit, Atlanta, and Toronto.
Right, and sweeping through both of them. I mean, boy, those cities... Right. Those cities don't like Cleveland very much, for sure.
That's right. And if they win tonight, then it'll still be the first 10, like the Cavs did.
Yes, absolutely.
And then they'd be on schedule to lose the last 2 up there in Toronto.
And I'll tell you what, too, looking at what's to come, obviously this is going to be a big homestand. Man, I mean, what a time to get hot. I mean, they really did. I don't know if you heard me before, but when I had some calls earlier, I said this is what we were talking about of the lightning in a bottle that the Indians needed to hit. It wasn't just getting hot. It wasn't just what they did. It was when they did it, and they did it at the perfect time. The Cavs had everybody red hot, and then boom, they needed something, and there's the Indians just as red hot, and these people latch on. And now as I look ahead, I mean, the Indians here are looking to set, of course, the franchise all-time record, but there's only 3 winning streaks longer in American League history, 14, 15, and then, of course,
the A's 20,
the A's with that 20. So this week, things could get, you think it's red hot, things could get white hot in Cleveland over this upcoming week.
You're right, and you and I have been talking about this all year, really, and it's almost a shame that the All-Star break's coming.
Right, it's going to cool it off a little bit.
It's going to cool things off. But yeah, you're right. The idea was, and you brought it up, a dozen times. Get the downtown area all supercharged and enthusiastic, and that's exactly what happened. And 1.3 million at the parade, and now the Tribe, hotter than a firecracker. Like I said, you get Detroit and the Yankees, and unfortunately, you've got the All-Star break going to break it up. But I have a feeling that this enthusiasm is going to carry over.
Me too.
One of those other number games things, and you get ahead of yourself a little bit, and obviously it's silly season all the time when it comes to numbers. But another thing that one of the Plain Dealer writers pointed out the other day, Tribe 18 games over. Tribe can play 500 ball the rest of the year and win 90 games.
That's what I was saying earlier in the show. That's amazing because that'll get you in.
That's pretty amazing. And obviously, you hope they can do better than that. But even if they don't do better than that, you're sitting at 90. Nobody had this team winning 90 games. Everybody was in the 86, 87, 88 wins tops. At the start of the year, I was thinking maybe 86 to 88 if they had a good year. And now it's the bar is raised, and you've got a chance to do something really special with this streak and the momentum that it gives you and the confidence it gives you.
Absolutely. Something else, too, I just saw this pop up, and I thought this was interesting. Never before has this happened since the divisions were split up. July 1st, every single division, the gap of 5 or more games from first to second place.
I noticed that the other day. That really is remarkable that it's stretched out that much and there's that much, dominance. And it really is not the people that were expected to be there in a lot of cases. Certainly no one had the Orioles, for example, as running away with the East. And even Texas wasn't figuring to be 20 games over 500. A lot of people thought it was Seattle's year. A lot of people thought that the Angels would bounce back. So, yeah, it really is not only stretching out, but not with the players that were thought to be there.
And I'll tell you what, Dan, for once we always make these comparisons, but man, doesn't it feel like 95 again when you look in the standings and you see the Indians have a 23-game lead on a team in the division? Because that's what it felt like back in 95, 96, 97, back in those days when those bottom teams in the division would be 30-plus games back and the Indians were just clubbing teams. But I've felt this coming here. I believe attendance-wise, I think I was throwing some numbers out to a buddy earlier. I said, they're not going to sell out every game, but if they can average, 20,000 on the weeknight games and sell out most of the weekend, I think that's a realistic goal the rest of the season because I don't think they're going to play 500 the rest of the way. This pitching staff didn't just get hot. When the Indians' offense wasn't hitting, this pitching staff was pitching like this. Last year, they were pitching like this. This is a consistent thing. I believe this is going to be the most fun Indians baseball summer since those 90s teams, since 95, since that first run when it was just fun. And I think it's, like I said, it might be a bad analogy to use, but I keep going back to a drug addict who gets the biggest high they've ever had in their life. Can't get any bigger, and then they take it away. You go find something. You don't just go cold turkey, and the Indians are in the right place, and bam, this thing is going to be like those, that 94, 95-ish time when it was just innocent and fun again down at that ballpark.
That's true, and some of the fans like you and me that are diehards, we tend to poke fun sometimes about the bandwagon jumpers, and we always talk about, no one ever became a Cleveland fan because they were a front runner. Well, we need them to be front runners now. Every team needs those casual fans, the fans that came down to Jacobs Field in the mid '90s just because it was the place to be and it was a social scene, it was a happening, and that's why they were there. They weren't necessarily baseball fans. Well, we need that to happen again. And we purists, we can look down our nose sometimes at those people and say, hey, they just jumped on the Tribe bandwagon. Well, good. We need those people, and we need them to put their butts in the seats and fill up the place and charge it up with some enthusiasm so the players have the benefit of a true home field advantage, with emotion coming from the crowd.
And Dan, to do this without the MVP of the team and one of the top MVP candidates in the American League, in the form of Michael Brantley, I think makes this stand out even more.
That is remarkable that they're doing it without him. And again, to Tito's credit, manager's job, get the most out of your players. And I saw him doing 5 good minutes on PTI the other night, and he was talking about, hey, you don't necessarily write the script and the manager doesn't necessarily put the roster together. They're talking about the base running and the speed on this team. And that hasn't necessarily been Frank Hona's, MO in his years in Boston when he had all the big boomers, but that's what he's got now. And so that's what he's trying to take advantage of. And that's what good managers do. So Tito's taking his lumps from people and he's got his critics around town. Some of them among my friends and co-writers. But you can't say that he's not maximizing his roster talent right now, because nobody looks at this roster minus Michael Brantley and says that it's competitive with some of the other position player rosters around the league. You just can't do it.
I mean, one of the guys that's a big part of being able to step in and do that, Rajay Davis. I don't think you can say enough about what that guy has done. And I had faith in him. Him and Napoli were the two that I really believed in when the Indians made those signings, and both of them have just made their presence felt so big. I mean, Napoli and Santana sitting on 16 home runs apiece. I mean, that's a huge jolt in the middle of that lineup. But Davis does a little bit of everything, He gets timely hits. He steals bases. He's got 21 I think so far on the season. Big pieces, those veterans added to a whole bunch of young guys and some coming of age guys. Kipnis is kind of in that middle stage there, but you got all these other guys and Lindor, and you've got the right mix of veterans and young guys that are just going out there and playing some damn good baseball.
Yeah, and even look at Uribe, who the big plus for him presumably was, his clubhouse presence, his leadership, the veteran guy, a glue guy, call whatever. And you can see that, and you can see that on the field. You see that in the dugout, and he's contributed offensively, and he's played a solid third base. But then you're getting a couple of out of nowhere guys, and people like Jose Ramirez coming into the year.
I mean, what
but
else
you didn't
can you
expect
say?
him to be doing what he's doing, and nobody expected much of anything out of Tyler Naquin. And he's given the team a big boost with speed and with extra base hits and with, just, hey, hitting 320.
Real quick, let me stop you there while you're talking about Tyler Naquin, because I've had some people hit me up and say, what do you think about this? I even saw some ridiculous conversations about should we trade this kid before he comes back down to earth and go get somebody for the stretch run. This kid's a stud, man. This is no undrafted free agent. This is a guy that's supposed to be there, and he's only going to get better.
Yeah, you're right. I guess the only thing you can say really is that he's shown that he needs to work on this defense. He doesn't always take great routes to the ball, and he's looked like a rookie outfielder at times out there in center field. Turns approach to the ball, and he's been a little unsure of himself, I think, coming in on some balls and not calling people off, making rookie mistakes defensively. But he's fast. He's got a big arm. And he'll get better defensively
and he
as
hits.
he learns the ballparks and the angles and all that kind of thing. That's the only thing you can put any kind of rap on him because obviously he got a lot stronger between last year and this year because not a big guy, but he's got some pop in the bat and got a sweet looking swing and not unlike Frankie Lindor, who gets a lot of power out of a little wiry body. So yeah, you've got to just love the kids they've got. And I want to talk to you too, Jerry, a little bit about some of these, talking about trading people. Heard a rumor, there's all kinds of rumors, and it's, again, silly season for baseball trades. And, some writer will speculate, well, this is what the Pirates might need if they were going to trade us Andrew McCutchen.
Andrew McCutchen,
And
yeah, I saw
I'm sure
that.
you heard this one. And I heard a list of players. Let me just run them down to you, and I'll ask you. I can't even remember who the guy was that was putting together this quote-unquote proposed trade, speculated trade. And as far as I know, it has no basis in fact whatsoever. But here was his proposal. Andrew McCutchen to the Indians, along with some left-handed reliever that I can't even think of the guy's name. He's a left-handed power bullpen arm for Bauer, Bradley Zimmer, Tyler Naquin, Brady Aiken, and the catching prospect for the tribe, Maya, for McCutchen. Now, I looked it up today. McCutchen's having a miserable year. He's hitting like 238. He's got a sore thumb. He's been hurt. His numbers are all way down offensively and defensively. Presumably the Pirates have also a hot prospect, one of the top 15 prospects in all baseball, who's their up-and-coming center field prospect. So they have a replacement at the ready. What are your thoughts in general about trying to go get Andrew McCutchen and pair him up with Michael Brantley, and help this team in terms of day-to-day roster?
See, man, some people aren't going to like where I'm at, but, man, if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. I'm all about, you want to go get a little arm for the bullpen, you want to strengthen up, you want to get a left-handed reliever, you want to get somebody to shore up the pen, go for it, man. But I'm not a big fan of tinkering with, especially because whatever you think about where the Indians are in 2016, they're only getting better. There's cats coming up down below. There's more offense
and Bradley
to come.
Zimmer is one of them, yeah.
Right. There's offense to come.
And Aiken is another one of them, yeah.
Don't you think?
I'm
just saying. I'm not trying to get – we're all on top of each other. I'm not trying to get all cocky and say, oh, well, we don't need anything. But, man, these guys seem to be growing well together. And I don't remember, hey, everybody loves to talk about the 90s Indians. I don't remember every year people going, hey, now this year we need to trade Jim Thome so we can get this guy. And this year we need to trade Manny. And I'm not saying we've got those guys. But this is the team that's been coming together, and I think part of the way they're playing, it's not just individual parts. It's the sum of them all. They've been playing together. They complement each other. Now, obviously, if the right deal for some franchise-altering deal comes along, that's fine. But these Indians don't feel to me like a team that is missing pieces. This team, as is, can win the World Series, brother.
Yeah, I hear you, and I don't do that proposed deal anyway. Bradley Zimmer, I love the
what do you think about
Bradley Zimmer pairing up with Naquin and Brantley or Clint Frazier over the next couple of years in the tribe outfield, and it's going to be as good as it's been in a long time. Plus,
Dan, what do you think about what I just said? Can this team, as it is, compete and win the World Series? Because I think they can.
I think they can because the starting pitching is that good.
Yes.
And by the way, let's talk just for a second about the bullpen. And I've been a critic of the bullpen and standing pat.
They're coming up big.
They are. And I tell you, last night, that's as good as Cody Allen has looked in a long time.
I think.
And I think a lot of it is just rest. I mean,
yeah, lack of exposure. Lack of exposure. They haven't had to be out as much, so they've maximized the limited time they have been out there.
Exactly. Tito's reputation is, and justifiably earned, that he beats up his bullpen. He's certainly done it over the last couple of years, set records for, relief appearances and such. The number in this 13-game streak was remarkable. 21 innings total by the bullpen.
Think about
games.
that. They only had 21 innings in that whole stretch, man.
Yeah, and it's starting to show because Shaw's kind of getting his arm back. Cody Allen last night, I couldn't believe how powerful he looked. He threw a dead center of the plate down the middle fastball past Josh Donaldson for strike 3 in the 9th inning last night, and I couldn't believe he actually, had the cojones to do that, and Donaldson whiffed on it. He got a pop up and a ground ball, game over. And I thought, wow, Cody Allen hasn't looked that. And the night before, he was tough as nails too. The last 2 times out, that's as good a performance by Cody Allen, and it looked good and confident in his stuff, and the curveball snapping off. That's as good as he's looked in a long time. And I got to believe it's because the whole bullpen, even the last few games when Tommy Hunter came in or when Jabba came in, they are rested and ready, man. And I just think the bullpen's looking a lot sharper, and it's got to be because they've got like 8 guys to carve up 2 innings a game.
Yep.
So it's remarkable.
I absolutely agree. I brought up the stat about that earlier with the 1.29 ERA, and I mean, you complement the starting pitching with that. You get timely hitting. I mean, situational hitting. I mean, really, and that's just it too. It's not just that they hit; it's when they hit. Like they hit in key situations all the time. Ramirez, you brought him up. What's he over 400 with runners in scoring position? I mean, it's just
right with the league leaders in that.
Those are the keys to success right there for any team, and this Indians team is and you know what? Look, not to sound all soap opera-ish and lovey-dovey, but civic goodwill, and I just mean in general. I mean, the weight of the depression and the stories, like that stupid Believe Land. I could care less that they put a new end on that. It was a retelling of the same. I didn't like it the first time. It was the same stupid, sad stories over and over again. They made it look like everybody in Cleveland has been stuck in a time warp for 52 years, living and dying off of sports teams. And yes, people get upset and they get emotional, but there's a whole hell of a lot more to Cleveland than just what some guys on a field do. And I joked online and I said that to me, ESPN is like the battering husband who then sells the story of his wife to Lifetime so he can profit off the movie telling the story about him beating his wife. You know what I mean? Because that's what it felt like. They whatever. So they can retire their stupid movie and their reel and all of that. But the Cavs, not just the Cavs winning, but breaking through that, the breath of fresh air. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. You don't put 1,300,000+ people in the same place anywhere and not get problems. Yet somehow that happened here in Cleveland because it was truly a happy, cathartic experience. And I think we've talked for years, Dan, you and I, about these players playing in empty parks with fans who have given up on these teams, and how excited can you get playing baseball in front of 8,000 people on a Wednesday night and it's 40 degrees outside and all of that stuff. But as the fan base, it just feels different. That weight is off of everybody. They can breathe, and I think that spreads to the teams because they feel it in the ballpark, and there's more electricity, there's more bodies, there's more everything, and I think that's not to be discounted as part of what the Indians are experiencing.
Yeah, I think you're right, and as far as Believe Land goes, I haven't had the time or inclination to watch it yet. I've got it on my DVR. I heard the other day that they were going to rewrite the ending, that it was going to be debuting, last night. I hadn't really talked to anybody today that watched the new ending. But my feeling is, Jerry, it's too bad that they went and rewrote the ending when they're just going to have to rewrite it again in November.
That's right. Hey, I already accepted an invitation on Facebook to the Indians parade, brother. I think it's over 10,000 deep so far.
Exactly. Yeah, so I figured what a waste of time to rewrite it now, and you're just going to have to
That was so
do it again.
stupid. So stupid. Anyways,
so you watched it last night, in other words?
No, I don't. I could care less what the new ending. I know the new ending. It's same as the old one.
Yeah,
I could care less.
We lived the new ending. But
I'm not worried about your stupid movie. I'm not worried about any of that. We lived through each and every. It's a part of all of us. But I mean, here's the thing I hated the most. I think was the talking heads they chose, which of course because of the ESPN tie-in was a bunch of the local ESPN radio guys. But these were just some sad, whiny losers who made it seem like they have based their entire existence off of whether sports teams have won or lost for 50 years. And it's like, if that's truly the way you've valued yourself, you're a pretty sad, type of loserish type of individual, perhaps you might want to get some hobbies, because they made it look like we're all like that, and I'm like, get out of here, man.
Yeah,
I cried when
the
Ernest
guy-
Biner fumbled the ball, but I'm okay. I'm not sitting around in a dark room going, why, Ernest? Laces out, Ernest. Laces out.
Clearly, Ernest is over it, as he said on your show here.
He was at the parade, baby.
I heard Ernest on Mike and Mike in the morning, the week after the Cavs wanted talking about his book and talking about, they reach out and they take the low hanging fruit, I guess the national media does. But Ernest, I thought his appearance on your show here, and I was on right after him that day, and that was really a heart to heart conversation there. And Ernest is such a good guy, but the national media, they reach out to let's talk to the guy with the fumble, and
that was my favorite part about the parade. I was sitting there with some friends, and I said, at least we will never again have to have these shows do exactly what you just said. No more do we have to watch this stupid reel, or hey, guess what? We're going to talk to Ernest Biner about the fumble, or we're going to talk to Mayor White about the Browns moving, or we're going to talk to this person. Get out of here. Just stop the loser parade, because our parade had a 1,000,003. I'm good.
Yeah, that's right. And, we can forget about that. And when we talk about the shot from now on, we talk about Kyrie Irving.
Ooh, baby. I want to get that fat head. And I'm not trying to put money in Dan Gilbert's pocket, but I love that full-size wall fat head. I don't know if you saw it. I want to get it for my studio. It's all black and white. And then Kyrie's in color making the shot. It's great. I think it's probably like 10 foot long or wide by 8 feet tall or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, that'd
pretty
be
nice.
So as far as the Tribe goes, Jerry, you're okay with making a move for a bullpen arm? Let's go after Andrew Miller or somebody. Let's go. Let's go get a lefty arm and maybe a little piece for the outfield.
Here's the thing,
and we're good.
What you said to start this conversation is why. Those pitchers are guaranteed to be here for at least 3 more seasons deep with that starting rotation, and you got all of these guys coming up that can hit the baseball. And then some are still just developing. Frankie Lindor is just emerging. I mean, this is a happening thing right now. It's not even like a couple-year-old thing. This is a happening thing as we're watching it. And to me, man, that's almost worth letting it all come together that way than going around and trying to monkey around and make deals. Because if you make the wrong,
you're right.
you close your window perhaps while it's open.
Yeah, and you don't trade corner outfield prospects like Clint Frazier and like Bradley Zimmer, and Bradley Zimmer maybe not a corner outfielder, he's kind of a natural center fielder, they say. But you just don't move guys like that to the first-round draft picks, like Tyler Naquin, like Aiken. Kid is Brady Aiken, isn't it? I keep getting them mixed up. That's a kid who I guess just pitched his first first professional game the other day after coming back off of Tommy John surgery, and another number 1 pick for the Indians with a high ceiling. You just don't move those guys, especially when you're on a roll with your first-round picks. It seems. Starting with Lindor and looking now down the line at Zimmer and Frazier and Aiken and some others. That's like you say, you've got time to wait for him, and the club's in first place, and looking back at with a six game lead, you don't blow it up if it ain't broken.
Let's see where we're at the trade deadline. If we're sitting on a 27-game winning streak, 30-game winning streak, we'll see where we're at come trade deadline time. How's that?
That sounds like a fair way to go.
I'm loving it though. Like you said, it's you wish you didn't hit the All-Star break, because it's just gonna cool things off for a minute. And right now the momentum is absolutely red hot. I'll tell you what, man. Jokingly, I said at the beginning of the show, Bruce had called in and said, well, the Browns haven't lost in 6 months, but I did want to mention them for a minute, because I have heard from some people in the building that talking about Civic whatever, and I know Joe Hayden said, hey, we got to get to work. It's easier said than done, fellas. But that energy does ripple through. And one thing I have heard legitimately coming out of the building is that on their own, there are more players coming in, working out, putting the time in. There's a lot of that, whether you want to call it desperation, fear for your job. There should be fear for your job, by the way, if you win 4 or 5 games every year. Everybody should be afraid for their job. But Hugh Jackson has this is people that work in the building, said the energy in that building has not been like this in a while. He really has infused a new kind of a vibe there, which is a good thing. And everything we hear about the guy says that's his MO. So we'll find out. Training camp is a month away.
Yeah, if that.
3 weeks?
It's got to be, I don't know exactly what date they opened it, but it's usually early July because they're playing games in early August.
Yeah.
I got to believe it's probably somewhere around the 10th of July that they'll start reporting and working out. They work out for about 2-3 weeks before they play their first exhibition, right?
Yeah, the orange and brown scrimmage is August 6th, and that's usually about the 10th or 14th day into training camp. So,
okay, so maybe it is later in the month. Yeah,
it'd be about I think it's about the 20th, 21st, somewhere in that area. I think when the official reporting date is, but regardless, we're right there.
I've been out of the loop, local news wise. What is the signing situation with the draft choices? I mean, I heard
everybody's under. I believe everybody has been signed now. Of the guys they drafted, except there may be 1 or 2 still outstanding, but that should be all wrapped up by the time they hit training camp.
Corey Coleman is signed.
I believe he was one of the first ones.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
I've been just out of the.
I got to be honest with you. I'm right there, my man. I mean, the Indians are doing a good job.
Going on, sure.
Corey Coleman was the first draft pick signed, if I remember right, back in May. So I believe they just wrapped up the last one, unless I am mistaken. They just.
I heard yesterday Joe Schobert, the linebacker from Wisconsin, signed. I guess just yesterday.
Yeah,
but that's the last one I've heard of, and I wasn't really on top of the other ones.
Signed yesterday.
There's been a few other things going on in Cleveland sports. I just haven't paid a lot of attention to it.
You think? There's been a thing or two. Yeah, they wrapped up signing the draft picks, and they also cut Connor Shaw yesterday, so one less quarterback coming in for the thing. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time talking about them until they get to camp, but I am. Hey, some people joke about forget the Indians. They're just going to slow things, or the Browns. They're just going to slow things down. But I'm excited when it does come around to see, because as I said, legitimately, I have heard from people that I trust that there is most definitely at least a new vibe there, and there needed to be, because the old vibe stunk, and so hopefully they can do some good things here, because they're going to get swept away quick, brother. They're going to get swept away with the wave of winning if they don't turn this thing around.
Yeah, that's right, and hopefully the vibe can, Frank Owner was talking the other day about how his players reacted to, and he made sure that they went down to their spot at Jacobs Field and went up in the upper levels of Jacobs Field where they could watch the parade happening. And, I'm sure that any professional athlete sees 1 million people on the streets of Cleveland and says, I want to get me some of that.
And you know what? That's the other thing, too, is up until now, if you were even with your friends, or if you were fans of different teams, you could go, well, the Browns stink. Oh, well, the Indians haven't done anything. Oh, the Cavs haven't done anything. That dynamic has changed. And among the sport, we talk about how, this is a football town, and the Browns will always have the heart. Well, you know what? That's because the Browns were the last team that won a championship, and that has changed. That dynamic has changed, and the Indians may tweak that dynamic even more come November. So theoretically, that puts the Browns third place by far in a 3-horse race, and I think that dynamic of the forgiveness and all that changes now, because other franchises have actually won championships. I think that's a new dynamic in this town that we haven't seen for 50 years.
That's true, and there was the question, coming up in the days and the weeks after the Cavs thing, that what does this do to the other 2 franchises in town, the baseball and the football team? Does it lessen the pressure on them, or does it increase the pressure on them? Does it, and it might have an opposite effect on, let's say, players on the roster and ownership groups and or top management of the teams. Maybe the little bit of heat is off the players. Maybe they can play a little looser, but maybe the owners and the top management of the teams have a little bit more scrutiny, a little bit more pressure on themselves and from the fan bases. I don't know how that plays out. What's your take on that?
Wouldn't you think so? I would think so, because now that's what I mean. None of these teams, 52 years, 3 teams, all these different seasons, however many it added up to, none ever won a championship. Some came close, some came closer, none ever won. So there was no... They were all, I don't want to say they were all losers, but none of them were ultimate winners. So it was easy just to say, no, well, your team hasn't won either. I do believe that puts the pressure now on these other teams because, and I think you can, I believe that the Indians, they're not blowing smoke when you hear Terry and those guys say that these players were watching the parade, that they saw that. They feel that same way. I know they're still millionaires and some of them don't care what city this is. That's just the team they play for. But some of them do feel that. And I definitely believe that the ownerships and the business sides do feel that because it's easy to say, oh, well, we love the Browns anyway while they're going 4-12 every freaking year. But now that a team has won a championship and shows you that we're going to do it again and we're going to spend a ton of money and we're going to do it the right way and we're going to whatever. I mean, obviously they can say it's the right way because it won a championship. The Indians have developed and built and went through the down times, and now hopefully they're going to prosper in the good times. Yeah, a team like the Browns should have unmitigated pressure on it now. They should not be able to breathe because for the first time, other teams are not just better, but there's a there's a championship team in town. That is now, these other fans can look at you and say, no, they did it. They didn't come close. They're not just all our Cleveland teams. These guys are winning, and that fan dollar will shift to a winner.
Yeah, I think you're right. Now, the argument that I heard when I said something about the Indians, one of my friends is, the guy said to me, so do the Indians have the best player on the planet on their team? I said, well, I guess that does help a little bit. Yeah, but
I agree with that,
don't.
But I'll tell you what, let me ask you a question while we're throwing these things out, because I've been throwing this out to people. Some people think I'm right, and some of my younger friends think that I'm insane about this. But I said, okay, 1.3 million, and there's a lot of people came in from different places to see that. I believe that an Indians World Series parade would top the number of people that came for the Cavs, and I'll tell you why. Because the Cavs have only existed since, 1970?
46 years,
The Indians have not been, champions in even longer, and their fan base is older. It spans another generation of older fans that are in Florida and Arizona and different places around the country that I believe wouldn't be motivated to come in for a Cavs championship, but would for the Indians. But all of those same people that came for the Cavs parade would definitely come for an Indians parade. So I think it's simple math to me to think that if 1.3 million came for the Cavs parade, the Indians would easily be over 1.5, because I think that they're.
I have no doubt, Jerry.
Right.
And I'm in that group. I'm in that category you just described. People that basically thought about going to the Cavs parade and said, nah, I don't want to do it. I don't want to fight the crowd. It's going to be crazy. I would be there with bells on for the Indians parade. I'm just in that category of people that would not go to the Cavs for all kinds of reasons, but because the Indians are deeper into my bones than the Cavs have ever been, I would be there. You couldn't keep me from being there. And I know that there's thousands of people, maybe millions of people like me.
And I see Ron on our Twitter account tweeting out some of the stuff we're talking about at the Sports Fix CLE. And as I sit there, you're talking about the pressure on the different teams. One of the reasons that the Browns, I think, had that forgiveness with the fan base was up until the 90s Indians. They were the best winners in town. They had one more. I mean, with the exception of that few-year run that the Cavs had when they got the good team together under Lenny Wilkins. Other than that, Cavs, were lovable losers for the most part. The Indians were dead in the water, and they were practically a minor league franchise the way they were ran during the late 70s and early 80s. So here came the Browns with Bernie Kosar and the whole era of the Cardiac Kids into Bernie and those guys. So the town fell in love with them again, and they were the more consistent winners over the 60s and 70s and 80s, and then that changed. And I mean, if the other teams had won sooner, I don't believe that the Browns would have even had this long period. I told you, right before Haslam bought the team, I am convinced, and I believe the attendance shows it, that was the year that the Browns had just begun to lose their foothold on the fan base for the Cleveland that were just going to be there no matter what. They had finally had a double-digit noticeable drop in attendance, drop in paid fans, all of that stuff. And I believe Jimmy Haslam bought the team at just the right time to breathe new life into it. Otherwise, I think that they would be in a lot worse business shape than they are right now. But this is going to magnify that, because now they're not just are they not the winningest team in town, they're the absolute bottom team, and there's bona fide contenders and or champions to compare them to.
I don't think there's any doubt that what you're saying is right, and that Terry Pluto wrote a book about the curse of Rocky Colavito, and we know that up until the mid '90s there was a 30 to 35 year period from, let's say, 1959 when they were last competitive until they made the playoffs again in 1995. A 35-year slump, as he called it in his subtitle, and they alienated or disenfranchised at least one, probably two generations of potential Cleveland Indians fans. And so the Browns it became a Brownstown by default.
Yes.
Not because they won multiple championships, because they didn't. They won one in '64, and that was it. So it was a default thing. The Indians had been a non-factor and were losers and ugly losers, bottom dwellers for that entire time. And, they alienated or at least missed out on enfranchising two generations worth at least of baseball fans. And that was in large part before the Cavs existed, or when the Cavs were a terrible expansion team. So, you're right. It's almost like the Browns lucked into making this a Browns town. Because, like you said, there was nothing to compare it to that they could hold up against and say, hey, be a winner like these guys.
And guess what? Look at what happened. People always just say, well, the Browns left at the same time the Indians got hot. That's kind of close, but it's not 100% true. There was that 2.5 year overlap or so.
Right, 93, 94, 95. Yeah, and the Browns left after 95.
And the Browns were good. Well, that was the last time they were, playoff team at least. They had that run that they made there. And the Indians were coming into their own. And guess what? One of the reasons Art Modell left was because he felt the winds had changed. All of a sudden, there was still a Browns town, but people were, even that playoff team, people were tired of Modell. They were soured on the Browns, and it was becoming an Indians town. I think had the Browns not left, that still may have transpired, the switch in the fan base over that time period, unless the Browns were able to stay competitive, obviously. But they looked like they were trending downwards instead of upwards over the next couple of years here in Cleveland. So I think had they not moved, what would have happened anyway, because you had a World Series contending Indians team, and I think that fan dollar would have shifted anyway. So I think that was kind of a preview 20 years ago of what you're seeing now with the true now championship emergence of the Cavs and potentially the Indians right behind it. The Browns are easily going to be the third team in a 3-horse race.
That's right. And the only thing that makes me doubt that scenario might have taken place, and it's just not something I thought about, just something off the top of my head right now, and because the driving force for Modell was two things: his own inheritance tax situation, his own concerns about the fact that his entire net worth was tied up in the Cleveland Browns, and he wasn't very liquid because he never did anything with his own money anyway, including buy the team. and was one of the last of the old breed of owners who had an NFL team as his primary source of income.
Right, the
and
team
they
was
were
all
the way
he,
were the way he got rich. They weren't the result of him being rich. And the other thing was the stadium situation. Ticked off about Gateway. He didn't get a new stadium, and the Indians and the Cavs both got new stadiums, new places to play, and he didn't get one, so he was ticked off. So those two factors were working to bring about the result that you're talking about. And the city was sick and tired of him, personally. Now, the only other thing on the other side of the ledger is we'll never know what would have happened because we had a guy named Bill Belichick as our coach. And what would have happened had he stayed with the franchise and had circumstances been different and had he been able to learn and become the head coach that he ultimately became in this town. One of those questions that will never be answered. But that to me is the only thing that's balancing the ledger on the other side against your scenario.
I mean, I agree totally with what you say. The reason that I think it would have went the way I do is because the financial situation was so dire, according to everything at least that you heard coming out of the Browns, that regardless super coach or not, these, potential to draft Ray Lewis, all the things that we know happened when they went to Baltimore, financially, I don't believe the Browns would have been in a position to do anything other than blow it up and have to rebuild their entire kind of business model, because that's one of the main reasons that he left, as you said, was the change in the financial situation of things. Now, that's the X factor, is had they stabilized that, had he, been able to be economically competitive, whatever it would have been, then it's a level playing field. But had it not, had he just stayed, I mean, clearly they were about to have some severe financial problems as an organization. As crazy as that sounds, but that's what would have happened because he was such an awful businessman. You can print. That's like working at the mint and screwing up printing money. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly right. Being an NFL owner and not being able to turn a profit.
My goodness.
That's amazing because that's a socialism at work there. They divide that pie equally, and no matter how bad you are, if you're 30 years of bad, like the New Orleans Saints, you get every nickel of TV money that the best teams get. So, yeah, you're right. He mismanaged that and managed himself into a bad situation. And then when he started looking at what his sons, his no account sons, were gonna do and have to deal with inheritance wise, that's when he felt that. Baltimore offered him a lifeline that he could make work.
Oh, they sure did. So, I mean, it's just and you know what? Here's the other thing. Instead of going in the past, looking at right now, here's another reason why I definitely feel the way I do as far as, we're talking about how many people would come if the Indians went to the parade and all that is, all this talk about the ratings being as high as they've ever been and are up 30% from last year. More people. Are the numbers, it's higher than the ratings for the local ratings for the Cavs games during the championship run, which to me shows you if that many people, were interested, everybody was into the Cavs during the run. I mean, that is an interesting comparison to me, that it's tens of thousands more watching these Indians regular season games, which shows me that when that vein gets hit, the fan base is potentially even larger.
You're right, and people want to associate with winners naturally, and so when they see one or when they see one out there, that it's a chance for fathers and sons and fathers and daughters and families to associate themselves and feel good about being associated with a winning team, and that's not something that we've always had here in this town, and I hope it catches fire and burns bright, my friend. I mean, I can't wait for it. And like I said, you couldn't possibly keep me away from that particular parade.
And it's all coming together. Look at, downtown. I said this at the very beginning of the show. You've been here much longer than I have. You've seen Cleveland evolve. Is Public Square not incredibly just breathtaking now compared to what I grew up with? It was a dingy, industrial, dark, part of town, man. Downtown was not cool at all, but definitely didn't look. Public Square did not look like it was the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, and that's about it down there, man.
Yeah, pretty dreary, and I always used to joke about the Terminal Tower being aptly named
Yeah.
But Lake Erie, the whole thing. There were all these. You've read Joe Poznanski's article called "A Boulevard Called Chagrin." There's a lot of just negativity about the whole city. So, but yeah, you're right. It's they breathe a lot of life into it.
Did
downtown.
you see the unveiling?
I just hope the Republicans and their enemies don't burn it to the ground here in the next month.
I'll tell you, that's some scary stuff. That's some. We couldn't get. We got 1 million. We got 1,000,003 Cavs fans downtown with no problem. You can't get 10 of these political guys together down there before something's going to get flipped over or burned or
exactly
or
right.
whatever.
I'm going to steer clear.
Did
of that
you
city
see?
For a while.
Did you see how many groups have filed for their places outside of the queue? Like they've had to section it off.
For their permits to protest?
They're protesting sections, yes.
Yeah, right.
Oh my god! Every group.
That's why I'm not going. That's why I'm not going near downtown.
Every group in the world has a section. It's like we're putting the Republicans here, the Democrats here, Black Lives Matter here, Trump sucks here, Clinton must die here. We're putting every group in a different place. I'm telling you, that's what it sounds like as they're going through it, And meanwhile,
I'm into the political scene, and that's why I want no part of it. I just think it has the potential to get very ugly down there, and I just don't want to be around.
Unbelievable, my friend. I'll tell you
hey,
what,
my
though.
friend, I'm gonna have to get rolling, but it's a great conversation, and I'll look forward to when you want to do this next week.
Yeah, we'll probably shoot for our midweek usual next
our
week.
Wednesday group. Okay, that sounds good.
We'll get back
good.
at it, my friend. I will talk to you soon. Hopefully we're talking again on a 17 game winning streak at that point.
There you go. From your lips to God's ears, my man. See you later.
Man. Dan, have a good one. That's Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland. He's with us every week here on the Sports Fix. You guys can check him out. Tweet with him at DWismar, DWISMAR on Twitter. And you can check him out, him and Jim Pete and all the great guys over there at everybodyhatescleveland.com. Hey, Indians fans, by the way, don't forget, always check out my good friend Mike Brandeberry, didthetribewinlasttnight.com. They've got some great stuff going on. Tweet with Mike at Did Tribe Win? Two great places to talk and read and interact with some Indians fans and articles and writers and all of that great stuff. Phones are back open. Last couple minutes of the show. If anybody wants to jump in, 216-539-7535. Had some comments talking about the Believe Land. We brought that up with Dan here. A couple of guys jumped in on Facebook. Matthew Olis said, I stopped watching after the first 8 minutes. The first time it aired. Have no interest in the second time. Yeah, well, I can't read the rest of that comment, but he doesn't care much for the 4-letter network. Dan Gillis said, all it did was make me mad the first time, watched it the second time just to see how they changed the ending, but I don't expect anything at all from the worldwide leader in Cleveland hate. Tex Tony said ESPN would interview Johnny, throw my career in the crapper and try to blame it on Cleveland Manziel. I would have to say, though, that Cleveland has some incredibly passionate sports fans. Speaking of, by the way, I forgot all about that. Was going to mention it with Dan. Johnny Manziel, he doesn't play for anybody right now in the NFL, and even if he did, he is out. I believe first 4 games was the suspension for violation of the league's substance abuse policy, which we knew was going to happen as his time with Cleveland was wrapping up anyway, but it just continues to get worse and worse. I think I saw him partying in Cabo the other day. His dad, again, plead for his life, and you hate to say things like stories like that usually end they don't have a happy ending, and unfortunately you see that coming again. But anyways, somehow he's left, and we continue to keep him in the news there for things that have nothing to do with the sports. Speaking of the sports world, let's get back to people that do, and I want to circle back a little bit to the beginning of the show, talking about that great month of June for Cleveland as we get ready to wind things down. You know who started it all was Stipe Miocic, the UFC World Heavyweight Champion. He broke the curse the night the first airing of that stupid Believe Land show came out. That was, and how, again, it cannot just be random luck and chance that went down like that, but that was the night that Stipe broke the curse, became the champion. Since that night, None of the teams, the Cavs, the Monsters, the Indians, the Gladiators, have lost a freaking sporting game. That is an amazing run, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Stipe gets to have his big return home, his moment of glory here in Cleveland, September 10th. I'll tell you what's a shame is that I am booked out of town for wrestling, and I am so angry. I'm already trying to find a way to get out of my commitment because I want to be down there for this one as the UFC comes to town. But since the last time we talked, not only is Stipe going to defend his title against Overeem there in the main event, Jessica Ai and Beth Correa has been made official. And while I mentioned Jessica, she's a great friend not only of the show but of me personally, and my prayers go out to her, as many of you have seen. Many of you guys follow her as well on social media. Her father passed away tragically yesterday of cancer, and I mean, not only is that's an experience that sucks for any person to have to go through, but since I 5 years ago went through that exact same experience, I mean, I can truly feel what her and her family are going through. My prayers go out to them, and hopefully she is able to. I texted her and said, hey, the best thing you can do is use this to fuel you going forward, and he will always be with you. My dad is with me every single day of my journey as we continue, and she will continue her journey as she joins Stipe. Two local fighters kind of co-billing this thing. Downtown Cleveland will be jumping off September 10th. Jessica and Beth Correa. Stipe defends his title. And for you wrestling fans out there, it is the UFC debut of CM Punk after nearly 2 years. The former WWE star is going to make his UFC debut as well. So it is a loaded card for the upcoming event, the debut of the Ultimate Fighting Championships in Cleveland. Cannot wait to see Stipe go out there and smash Overeem and defend that title right here in the land, baby, as the Summer of Champions continues. Guys, we're going to call it a break. We will be back here, as Dan and I just said, next week, midweek sports fix. Dan Wismar and I will be in it. We'll talk about the Tribe. We'll see how long they can keep this winning streak rolling. We've got a ton of things to do. Of course, you know, who knows where we're going to go, but we're going to be here. We're going to do it together, and we're going to do it with you, baby, live next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, Wednesday, noon. Be here for the next edition of the Sports Fix. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Have a great weekend, a great holiday. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe. Party it up, America. It's your birthday, baby. We'll see you next week live right here, back on the Sports Fix.
Old state monster, this the home of King James. We are not the empire, but this is where the kings play. Cleveland, we rep our city. Blue lights separate the ground from the gritty. Red sick fitted, hood pass cover any city that we visit. When you're from Cleveland, survivals are must on these streets. We hustle, don't sleep out here in Cleveland. Okay, now here we